So what is life like after you get a job? That is a question that I wanted to know the answer to when I was applying to all these different jobs, and it made me really nervous. Every company is different, and Nat and I have very different experiences. Nat works for a huge corporation, and I work for a mini startup.
Actually, my first job was working with it was a startup that was a one-man operation. He had done some coding. He wanted me to do some React coding. So I sat side by side with him for a couple months doing that. And then I got hired by a Fortune 500 company and was plugged into this giant machine, had this huge orientation. The entire first day was just going around the campus. We got all these like freebies and, presents, got an awesome MacBook Pro that was way better than my actual computer. So Martha's experience was a little different.
Yeah, there was basically no onboarding process. I got hired by a little startup called Grasp Health. There's only 2 other developers on the team. Like, this is what I mean by a startup.
Not the team, no, the company.
Yeah, not on the team, the whole company.
The company. My team had a product owner, a scrum master, 2 QA engineers, and then like 4 other software developers. And that was just our team. So my company, Cox Automotive, is not even the parent company. Cox Enterprises is the parent company with hundreds of teams.
Okay, so you work for a big company.
I work for a big company.
It's big. Mine is just starting out. So my first week on the job, I found out that there are no meetings, no daily stand-ups, no weekly check-ins, no scheduled meetings at all.
My team, we all have daily stand-ups. We have retros, we have all these different things, that I was plugged into. I enjoyed them just because I was totally new to the business world, and I enjoyed getting to know the other people on my team. But all the seasoned developers were all just they hated meetings, and I'm starting to see why. Yeah, it does kind of break the concentration that development actually requires.
I was actually kind of disappointed that we didn't have meetings.
Right.
I wanted to get to know the team. I wanted to feel like I was part of something and have regular updates to kind of know whether I was going at a good pace too. So here I am working and getting no feedback as to whether I'm working fast enough or doing a good job or, so I just work and hope that it's good enough.
And you definitely have been expected to do a lot more than I did. My boss basically told me, bringing me on, he was like, Nat, and other people on my team, they're like, we don't really expect you to be productive for the first 3 or 4 months. It's going to take you a while to kind of get up to speed on the code base and kind of learn a system. And so, I was pushing to production in the first week or so, but it was like a URL change or, it was really simple stuff that I was kind of working with our team lead on. Whereas Martha, what have you been doing for the past couple months?
Right, so your first few months you weren't expected to be productive at all.
No, I was productive. I was.
You were.
I will say that I was productive. A little bit, I think.
I just finished my 3rd month on the job. I took 1 week to teach myself TypeScript. The 2nd week, I was getting used to the custom Redux middleware that they use. There's no docs, so I'm basically just reading through the code, trying to understand what it does, because this is what I'm going to be using to communicate with the API.
And that is similar to my team, is that we have our code base doesn't have any docs or whatever. I think that's a pretty common thing. Coming into your first job that you will be having to learn the legacy code base.
Being able to read code and kind of figure out what it does is so important, but it does help being able to reach out to other teammates. I've done some pair programming when I've been really confused, what does this do? So that was my first 2 weeks. That was my onboarding experience, was me sitting by myself, learning TypeScript and looking at this middleware. Since then, I've been building a cross-platform mobile application from scratch by myself so that the drivers can use it.
I keep telling her that if my company was doing that, it would take about 20 teams, 100 people, probably a year. The fact that one person is doing it is very impressive. It's very impressive.
And I'm very proud of myself. I'm extremely proud. I've had to figure out a lot of things.
Insane.
And that's one reason he hired me, is because he wanted someone who could work independently and figure things out.
Yep.
So what is one thing, since you've gotten your job, that you wish you had worked on more beforehand or were more familiar with?
I would say the one thing that kind of threw me for a loop that I had really no experience in from like my boot camp was unit testing. And we did, like I said, we had 2 QA engineers on our team. They were doing like the integration regression testing, but the developers were responsible for writing unit tests. And I had never used a framework before. I didn't even understand the concept really. So that was kind of frustrating to me. A lot of times I would get through my code and then I would just get stuck on the unit test for like days and days and get really depressed.
Sad.
What about you? What do you wish you had learned?
Well, first of all, I think unit tests and testing.
Yeah, tell me about the unit tests you've been writing. I hope you've been following best practices, Martha. I hope you've been writing very extensive
I've
testing.
still never done testing. I think that does, for startups especially, it kind of gets pushed aside because it's just about producing something really quickly. Other startups that I've interviewed with, I've asked them if they do testing. They have plans on doing it later on.
Oh yeah, someday they'll have plenty of time and they'll be able to go back and do all the testing they could possibly imagine. So what is one thing that you wish you'd learned?
One thing that I wish I had been more familiar with was Git and GitHub. Just working on my personal projects.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't really need it. I mean, I pushed to GitHub and everything, but in terms of working on branches and merging them and doing pull requests and reverting to previous commits and all these different things, I've been using it more and more, and it's a lifesaver. I get it, why it's so important. And this is me just still working on my own project. It's basically my own project because I'm the only developer working on it, right? If I was working on a big team like Nat, it would be even more important.
So yeah, I mean, my job, we use GitHub, of course, and just today, I finished my code. I wrote my unit tests. I spent all day writing my unit tests. And we have this whole process where we basically have to create a pull request. We have to get at least 2 developers to look at it and approve it. One developer approved it right away. The other developer had all these, suggestions, suggesting I wasn't doing my, this one little algorithm, as efficiently as I could. I also had a merge conflict. My entire day, though, was basically getting this finished code into production, or at least ready for deploy, which is going to be deployed tonight. But
hey, that's exciting.
yeah, we have a process. But yes, small company, big company. It's like no Git.
What else? Blah, blah.
She forgot what she was going to say.
I have a notebook. So when you're going to interviews, be sure to ask a lot of questions. The fact that I was surprised that I was only the 3rd developer. I didn't realize during my interview with these 2 people that they were the only 2 people. So ask the team size, even ask what the onboarding process is like. Do they work by sprints, or do they use Kanban, or do they do testing? What kind of testing? Yeah, lots of questions.
Yep.
Don't be surprised.
When you're interviewing with a company, you will know the size. That
Right.
will give you some clues as to kind of what it might be like. Ask them what a normal day is like. I did that with my team when I was interviewing too. I think one of the developers he laughed and he said, "Taking long lunches," which was good. I mean, it was basically it communicated how laid back they were, which is exactly what I was looking for and what I needed. And it has been. It's been very laid back. My manager's been extremely trusting and hands off, and that's been great.
Yeah, my work has been very laid back as well.
Yeah, except for the part where you build an app by yourself.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not like he's checking in on me all the time to see how progress is coming.
Right.
I have
No, that's so huge.
I mean, he can see what I'm pushing to
so
GitHub,
important.
and he can see my Jira board that I'm using. I just write my own cards and do it. I mean, it's just my own thing. Blasphemy.
And Martha and I it's a great example because I'm doing React and she's doing React Native. So technically it's similar work, but very different execution. But they're both good companies, so
they're great.
Yeah.
And we're getting paid. And
that's the most important part.
We're doing great work, and things are awesome.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.